Have you ever imagined a kingdom which had always known peace, suddenly invaded by a group of soldiers? When they were all asleep, Rinda, the princess of Pero, suddenly woke up from her sleep and was panting. The Mongol soldiers from the neighboring country were invading the castle of Peros. Rinda rushed to Remis, the prince of Peros, and also her twin brother's room, and woke him up. Rinda and Remis were the heirs of Peros. After Remis had woken up, she told him they were getting out of there because she sent something miss. The soldiers shot arrows of fire towards the castle, and it was set ablaze. Everyone in the castle began to run. Helter-skelter, there was turmoil and commotion everywhere. Rinda and Remis came out of their room and found their father, the king of P, and their mother, the queen. They were disturbed seeing the fuss going on in the castle. The king and queen hastened towards the gate, and there Ryo was waiting. The king left the twin in his hand, and the queen promised to follow after them. Then the gate was shut. The king and the queen were killed by these Mongol soldiers, and they broke the gate, where the twins were in, so as to stop them from escaping. Two of the soldiers found the twins, and were about to strike them when Duke Norris descended and attacked the soldiers. He asked the twin and Rhea to hurry while he held the Mongol soldiers there, as Duke Norris turned 2 arrows, hit him, and he fell off the stairs. The twin arrived where the spire of Janos, the castle's travelling device, was situated, and the gates there were shut. Rhea announced to the twins that they were going to head towards Ear, where their aunt Emma Washi ordered them to go, and they travelled through the spire of Janos. Jun, a half-human and half-beast masked with the leopard head, was seen lying on the floor and was breathing heavily with his mouth opened. The twin couldn't arrive at Iaros. They landed at the forest named Wood, which was within Mongol territory. Remis was crying already. He was sad because their parents were dead. The Mongol soldiers were invading the forest again, and the twins quickly hid themselves behind the rocks. Remis was struggling with thorns that prickled his clothes and was talking loudly. Rinda cautioned him to keep his voice down, else the soldiers would found them. While they were still chatting, Rinda heard Theritas from Mongol approaching them. Rinda and Remis ran out of their hidden place. The Mongol soldiers stopped and climbed down from their horses. Rinda and Remis kept running, but Remis became tired. On the long run, when one of the soldiers saw him, he descended and gripped Remis. Other soldiers joined him, and they held Remis hostage. Rinda brought out her knife. A soldier came from behind and slapped Remis. Then Thesward dropped from her hand. Guin, the half-human and half-beast, stood up from where he was lying. One of the soldiers picked up Renda's sword. Remis had fallen on the ground, and while she was there, she muttered that someone should save them. Guin joined the scene, and everyone wondered what sort of creature he was. Some called him monster, while another called him rude demon. The soldiers brought out their swords, and the captain of the soldiers moved close to him to attack him. Guin gripped him and buried him alive underground. He fought the soldiers with his bare hand. Rinda said he must be evil, one do himself. Guin defeated all the soldiers all by himself, without any weapon. Afterwards, he fell on his knell. Remis told Rinda that they should flee, but Rinda maintained her same position, staring at the strange creature. Rinda told Remis that Guin needed something, but Remis seemed less concerned. Rinda observed that he must be human, only that he was forced to wear a leopard mask. Rinda moved close to him and asked him if there's something. He wanted only mentioned Guin and then fell off. Rinda moved close to him, and when she touched his body, she felt she was burning up and weak. She ordered Remis to bring water. Remis got one of the soldiers' helmets. When Remis had gone, Rinda moved away from Guin and then began to weep, wishing it was a dream that their parents were dead. Rinda poured water in Guin's mouth, and then he came back to life. Rinda asked what his name was and asked if Guin that he mentioned was his real name. Guin replied that he thought so. Rinda then decided to call him Guin, because it's a wonderful name. She introduced herself and her brother to Guin, and asked John if he was GW again, said Aura. Rinda said that must be where he came from. But Guin said he didn't know Guin, only mentioned 2 words when Renda questioned him. Guin and Aura, because that was all he could remember when it became dark. Renda told them that they had to leave the Forester Wood Forest, is a forest that is ruled by dangerous spirits and wildings. Come nightfall. Guin said he had heard the name of the forest before, but he didn't know why he was there, nor did he remember why he had the leopard mask covering his face. Renda concluded that he must have lost his memories. He asked whom he fought, and Renda told him. Hugh wiped out an entire squadron of Mongol Black Knights. He wondered who he was, to have been able to fight all the soldiers all by himself. Renda told him he saved them by fighting all the soldiers. Renda stood up and asked them to leave because the forest is not safe. They lighted up the torches left by the soldiers and then began to move Guin. In his mind, was still wondering who he was and if his name was really Guin. He couldn't remember anything about himself. No matter how much he thought about it, Renda assured him that his memories would return in due time, and he would be able to remove the mask as well. The 3rd captain of the Mongol soldiers had been peeping, and he saw Guin and the twin. He questioned the soldiers about who Guin was, and they told him he could be the leopard god Serenos or the evil one. Dole himself, he wondered why he was in the Rudwood. The soldier that picked up Renda's knife gave it to him, and he saw the crest of the Peros royal family on it. He knew it was attached to the royal family, but doubted if they were heirs of Paros. The captain said the twin can't reach the wood forest within that short period of time they left the castle, because it would take them 10 days, even at full gallop, to get there from Peros. Renda decided that they would spend the night beside a river till daybreak so they could move out of Rudwood since there was fire to protect them. Guin asked what they were doing in such a dangerous forest. Raze was about to tell him who they were, but Renda pinched him and then told Guin they can't say anything about them to him, since they don't know whose side he was. Guin told him he was not on anyone's side, as Renda mentioned the name Guin. She suddenly felt something strange run through her body, and then she wondered who Guin was. Remis revealed that Renda was a prophet. When they were born, the prophet of Pero said they would be 2 pearls, one an elixir and one a treasurer. Renda would be a great sorceress, and Remis would be the sovereign of Paris. Renda reminded him that Paros was no more. The crystal tower was torched, and the king and the queen were murdered, and all the saints of Paros were wiped out. Gwen then stood up and said he smelt rain. Renda also sensed some movements in the forest. The dead soldiers began to rose and began to turn into scary creatures. Guin told the twin that the creatures were called ghouls. Usually, they feed on corpses and possess them. Renda was surprised and asked if he had regained his memories. Guin ignored her question and instructed them to bear the torches and follow closely behind him if they wanted to be saved. Guin fought the ghouls and asked the children to fight too. Also, he told them to make sure their fire never goes out in order for them to survive. The children too fought the ghouls with their torches. But unfortunately, it began to rain. The ghouls kept coming out from the river, and their torches went off. Seeing that, there's no end to them. Guin carried Remis and moved close to the river. He told the children to dive into the river together with him if they wanted to survive the night. Guin jumped into the river, and Renda immediately followed him. But Remis hesitated because he was scared 2 fools appeared behind him and were about to attack him. Then he unwillingly landed in the river. The trio swam out of the river, and they saw its daybreak already. Fortunately, they all survived. Guin then decided he would now go in search of himself, so he could unravel the mystery of who he was and how he got the mask and what aura was. Renda asked what he was going to do about them. Guin responded that no matter what path they chose, it seemed they had little time to think about it. Surprisingly, they saw the Mongol riders right in front of them. The captain of the soldiers asked Guin who he was and asked the twin if the knife was for them. But they gave no response. The captain then concluded that their silence confirms their identity as the prince and princess of Peros. He called Guin Leopard Man and inquired if he was Thetwins's bodyguard. Guin ignored the question and told the children to dash to his sides on the count of 3, and he would take their captain as a hostage. Renda told him he can't fight the many soldiers himself, but Guin told her he would find a way. The soldiers asked them again who they were. Renda confessed that they were the Peros twins, but told him to leave Guin out of the issue since he'd no part in it, so they should take only them back with them. The captain told them he can't, and he gave them 2 options. Either Guin threw down his sword and they would ride on horses, or they dragged them by a leather leash behind them. Renda accused the captain of treating the royal twins of Peros like slaves. Guin stared at the captain in anger, and then he sensed something in his eyes. He laid down his sword, but he warned them to treat the children with honor. The soldiers moved the twins, and Guin with their hands cued. Rand apologized to Guin for getting him into trouble, but Guin told her she needed not to apologize since he killed their comrades anyway. Guin asked Rinda what Gora was and why their country was attacked and overrun. Rinda narrated that Gora was a powerful nation, one of the 3 kingdoms of the Middle Country. The Mongol had long planned on the invasion of the richer and more prosperous Perisone Day. One of the archduchies of Gora Mongol marched their troops on Peros, south to peace. The Peros never predicted the surprise attack of Mongol. Thus the royal line of Peros was killed except for the 2 of them. They arrived at the Stal's keep, and the captain commanded that the gate be opened. Rinda sensed a beast inside the keep, and also a scar human being. Rinda said she won't pass through the gates, because a plague rides in the air there. The captain ordered her to be quiet and said, if there was a ill fortune, there it would be from them, the cursed twins. He then ordered them to enter. As his lord was waiting for them, one of the soldiers moved close to the twins to drag them in. This pissed Guin up, and he gave him a punch with his hand. Tied the soldier, then landed in the sea. Beneath the bridge, Guin reminded them that he had warned them to treat the twins with honor. Oro of Taurus, one of the Mongol soldiers, watched the twins as they moved them inside the castle. His master called him to come prepare their meals, and he left immediately. The soldiers, Guin and the twins, arrived at the big castle where the lord of the soldiers, Vanon, was. Vanon was the ruler of Staphos Keep and the Black Count of Mongol. He was wearing a scary mask. The captain reported to his lord that he had brought the prisoners he captured in the rude wood. Vanon stood up and commended his works. He moved closer to the twins and asked them how they traveled from the crystal capital to the Rudwood. In merely a day, Rinda boldly responded that there was no secret to that. Van insisted that there must be a secret behind. Itrinda then lied that it was a black magic. Vanon knew she was lying, and he threatened to inflict unbearable suffering upon her. Rinda, with no traces of fear, replied that no matter the torture, be it water or fire or anything else, she would rather die than live on in disgrace. Remis, on the other hand, was damn scared. Vanon saw this, and he said he would rather torture Remis since he looks fragile, so it would be easy for him to get the secret. Vanon moved the fire he was carrying close to Remis, and he was afraid. Rinda came in between them and ordered Vanon to stop. Vanon attacked Drinda, and she began to scream. Guin ordered him to stop, and he put off the lights. Von's bodyguard descended and placed a sword on Guin's neck, and there he returned it. Seeing that he was calm, Vanon asked if he was the one who fought to protect the pearls of Peros. But John simply stared at him in anger. Vanon continued that he had never seen a creature like him before. He ordered the captain to remove his mask so they could determine who he was. Rinda told them to stop, but the captain brought out a knife to take the mask off. Guin roared like alien, and the captain became scared. Vanon asked the captain to stop, and said that he would rather have Guin entertain him so he would see how powerful he was himself. Guin was taken outside the castle and was set free. The great grey ape of Gabble was also set free from prison. Guin and the ape were expected to have a duel. Renda begged that sword be given to Guin, but Vanon said that he must survive barehanded until the sand and the hourglass runs out. Rinda insisted and said there's no way Guin could win against the monster. Unarmed, the fight then began. At first, Guin was winning against the beast and was dodging all his strikes, Oro was also watching the duel, dropped a glass of wine. And then the ape became more powerful and began to hit Guin. Remis noticed that the hourglass had finished. But the fight didn't stop. Rinda begged Vanon to give Guin a sword, but here fused the ape, strangled Guin's neck, and was about to kill him. Guin removed the pole behind him and smashed it on the ape's head. The fight continued, as both of them kept striking each other. Oro threw a sword to Guin to fight with, and when he looked at the sword, he sensed something that made him wonder who he was again. Within a short period of time, Guin had defeated the ape. The twins were excited that Guin won. The captain changed Oro for giving a sword to Guin, but he apologized and said while he was watching the fight he did it without thinking. Vanon told the captain that he had another opponent for Gwynthi. Captain knew he was talking about Istan of Wallachia, a criminal mercenary who was sentenced to death for insubordination to Vanon. Istan was taken out of the cell and brought to the scene where Guin was. Istan saw Princess Rinda and was astonished by her beauty. He called her. His shining lady Istvan shans were loosened, and he turned back to look at his opponent. He was shocked to see his opponent was not a normal person. Even wondered who he might be, that he even defeated the mighty Grey Arp. Istan told Guin his name and asked him for his name too, and he said his name was Guin. The captain threw a sword to Istan to fight with. He said whoever won would be kept alive. This statement got Van, and trembling Istan said he didn't want to fight Guin because he's already wounded, but the captain threatened him that he would be executed immediately if he didn't. Lord Vanon continued to tremble on his seat. When he couldn't bear it anymore and was breathing heavily, the captain asked what was wrong with him, but he stood up from his seat and walked inside the captain, then announced that the fight would recommence the next day. Oro was arrested and taken inside the cell he encountered. Guin and the twins heading to the cell too. Guin told him he would never forget his kindness. Oro responded that he couldn't watch him get killed, and he was taken away. The soldiers dragged Rinda away from the rest. Remis became sad, but Guin assured him he was going to do something about it. Remis told Guin that they had never been splitted apart even for once since they were born. Guin advised him to endure it. The jailer was asked to open the cell gate for Rinda, and she was taken. Inside, Rinda stared at the bright light coming from the roof of the cell, and suddenly a beast appeared. To her, Rinda knew it was one of the Holive across the river. Kes Remis asked Guin why the Vanon separated Rinda from them, and if she was safe. Guin answered that he didn't know and told him nothing good will come from fretting over things beyond his control. They heard something moving through the wall and thought it was a rat. Surprisingly, it was Istan who was removing one of the bricks of the wall next to their cell so that he could create a window for communication. Istan narrated to them that he was born grasping a jewel in his hand, and the local elders said it meant that one day he was going to hold a king Kaom in the palm of his hand and rule, so he believed in his fate that he was going to become the future king. He also told them that he would be escaping. By dawn, Guin asked him if he was what Aura was, and he said it sounded like a woman's name. Jilla sensed that the jailer was approaching. Then he returned the brick back to the wall. The Sem flew out of water and invaded the Stau keep. Rinda was trying to make the Sem master her name, and she told her she's Sunni. Suddenly they heard the alarm. Bel the Sem had entered the keep and were attacking the soldiers. Already Eston informs Guin and Remis that it's a Semite, and the Sem are invading the keep. Istan was planning his way to escape. Luckily for him, he was able to break the wall. Remis begged him to save them too, but he left them and jumped out of the cell with the help of a rope. Guin then said they needed to find a way to escape out of the cell. He tried to break the door, but it didn't work. The SE kept attacking the soldiers and had killed some of them already. One of the soldiers went to the cell, Orowasin, and opened the door for him to come out. He told him to come fight the Sem with them, and he left, but rather Oro came to the cell Guin was in and unlocked the door for him to come out. Guin was amazed that it was Oro again. He gave him a sword And Guin said he had saved him twice with the sword already. Oro told Guin he wasn't meant to die. In that place, Guin, Oro, and Remis ran out of the cell and were heading to search for Rinda. The SS attacked them, but Guin defeated all of them. Oro offered to take them to where Rinda was Von's bodyguard, attacked Oro, and he fell off. Guin moved close to him and told him to be strong, but Oro repeated that Guin wasn't meant to die in that place. Guin fought with the bodyguard and defeated him. By touching his chest, he landed in the water and drowned. Oro gave Guin the description of where Rinda was kept even when he was at the point of death. Guin asked if there was anything he wished for him to do for him. Oro told him if he ever needed any help in Taurus, he should stop by the smoking pipe, because that was where his father was, and he's a good man. Oro added that his father would want to know how his son died. Guin promised Oro that he would tell him that his son fought as a brave and noble warrior to the end. Oro then gave up the ghost. The captain announced to the soldiers that the reinforcements from Alvin Keep would arrive soon, so they should hold out. Until then, one of the Sem descended from the top ahead and hit the captain down. Rinda was still with Suni, and she assured her that her Suni brothers would come to save him. Soon, Suni kept saying things Rinda didn't understand. The cell Suni and Rinda were in was lifted and brought before Count Vanon. Vanon said he had grown tired of wildling blood, and now he felt like tasting the royal blood. He stretched out his hand and the cell broke. He moved closer and stretched his hand again. Then his hands turned into a red beast, and he drew Rinda and Suni closer to himself. Rinda told him bravely that if he came any closer to her, she was going to bite her tongue off. Guin told Remis to tell Rinda that as long as she still breathed, she should keep hope and fight, because that is the true pride. Vanon let go of Rinda and Suni. Rinda then sighted the two swords on Vanon's seat. She rushed towards them with Suni to pick them up, and each had a knife with them. Rinda told him the tower would fall soon, and he wasn't even showing any concern. He answered her that even if it was destroyed, then so be it, because it doesn't matter to him. Count Von's plan was to spread his bile all over the middle country. Guin joined the scene and said all he wished for was blood to extend his life. Remis also came up. Guin instructed them to hide themselves in the corner. He moved close to Vanon and broke his mask. Then his true form was revealed. Vanon and Guin then began to combat. At last Guin defeated him and he vanished. Guin told the children he was going. The children said they would go with him, and Suni said the same. He carried them and told them to close their eyes, cover their head, and cling tight to him. He then jumped from the tower, and then they landed in the river. Even was seen sitting at the bank of the river. Now the hope of the kingdom of Paros lies in their belief that Prince Remis and Princess Rinda were still alive, as well as Duke Norris, because that was what they had. Fortunately, Duke Norris was still alive. He vowed that he would liberate the nation without Phalistan. Carried Rinda out of the river and stared at her. She was unconscious. He commended that he's such a beauty. Rinda, when she woke up, struggled with him, thinking he was their enemy. But he asked her to calm down because he was now their ally. Guin from behind confirmed his words to be true. Guin was coming out of the river with Suni and Remis, but they were still unconscious. They finally woke up and were eating some fruits. They found they got a raft and moved on. The river was called the Dark Flower River of Death. The children wondered why it was called that even when the water looked so pretty, and they stared at it closely with smiles on their faces. Unexpectedly, a beast appeared to them from the river and at that instant killed it, as if he had been awaiting its appearance. Istan asked Rinda if he had heard of the Shining Lady before, as he thought she was the Shining Lady when he first saw her. Rinda asked what the Shining Lady was, but he told her never to. Istan asked Rinda what they were going to do if they reached Chironius. Since they were heading to Chronia, Rinda ignored his question and asked what it would mean if by chance she was this Shining Lady. Istan told him it would mean that she would open the door to his destiny, and that was all he knew about it. While Istan was still speaking, a big mouthfish came out from the river, and it broke their raft. Suni slipped off Renda's hand and fell into the river. She kept shouting Renda's name. Guin skillfully used his paddle to throw her back into the raft, and Rinda caught her. Guin fought the monster with the paddle, and they were able to leave it behind. Lady Amnelis, the only daughter and general of the right and proxy of Archduke Vlad, was watching them from atop the cliff over the Kes. Guin sighted her from there, and in his mind he wondered who she was. Lady Amnelis and her other 2 soldiers rode to the Alvin Castle. There they met Lord Ricard of Alvin Castle. He was surprised to see her, asked why she came with few men, and she told him that a company of her white knights was standing by in the Alvinwood Lady. Amnelis talked about those she saw from atop the cliff with Lord Ricard. She also described Gwyn's strange look and added that she had instructed soldiers to ascertain their identity. The squadron of white knights of Lady Amnelis arrived before Guin, and the rest while they were still in Theraft. Remis asked if they were soldiers from Mongol, but Istan explained to them the soldiers are different. The Mongol soldiers had the black, white, blue, reed, and yellow knights. The white knights were the personal army of the Archduke, and they protect the capital Taurus. The captain of the knights ordered them to land their raft on the bank. Istan told them they were just travelers, and so they had no business with them. The captain insisted they land their raft, and the soldiers began to shoot at them. However, a very big-mouthed fish showed up from the river again, and there was storming. The river Guin jumped out of the raft and landed on the head of the fish. He pierced it on the head with his sword, but the fish refused to die. Thoringworms showed up too, and Guin had to jump back into the raft. One of Thoringworms broke the raft, and they all fell into the river. Fortunately, they all swam out to the other side of the river. Now the white knights were on the other bank, and right ahead of them Isnosferus, the land of evil demons, thought. The white knights would not cross their Kes in pursuit of them, but they cannot stay where they were presently. Lady Amnelis was angry when the white knights returned, and they reported they lost them. The captain apologized and said he didn't know that the twins were pearls of Peros. Lady Amnelis then asked Count Ricard, the captain, and Divagagus to come to her room while they were in the room. Lady Amnelis revealed to Count Ricard that she planned to increase her cavalry by another company, and she would lead the men across the Kes herself. Count Ricard told her he won't allow her go to a non-man's land Nosferus, which is the stronghold of demons. Lady responded that a father made a personal decision for Mongol to invade Peros, because he feared that the fragile power balance because the 3 Dukedom of Gora may crumble, so Anulania would not hesitate to strike Mongol if necessary, and that was why they needed Nosferus to protect the attack. From there Our Lady Minas told the Count that what she told him was a top secret, known only within their King's Palace, the Golden Scorpion Palace. She asked Garjus the Diva what the star said. Godus replied that it wasn't very good news. More specifically, their placement was quite peculiar. He continued that the stars gave 3 words: a meeting, a change. Guin and the rest found a place to stay, on the rocks, even told Guin that they can't cross into Nosferus without supplies. Guin also replied that as long as they could not go back, they had no choice but to press forward. Suni, in the middle of this, came to Rinda and said something she couldn't understand. To her, Guin interpreted it as saying that she would never forget the heroes who saved her life, and she wanted to bring them to her village Raku for her to thank them. Afterwards, the Raku tribe of S will guide them to wherever they wish to. Gorinda was surprised that Guin could understand her language, and Gun himself did not know how Estevan stood up and said Gwyn's homeland must be Nosferus because all monsters hail from there. Lord Roseanne, general of the left, reported to Archduke Vlad Lady Amel's father that Lady Amnelis had departed Alvin, and now she pursued the heirs of Peros. Archduke Vlad told General Roseanne not to worry, that she would befine. Lady Amnelis announced to her soldiers that they would be marching forcefully into the Nosi and night and capture the fleeing twins of Peros, as well as their protectors, and personally she would lead the command. Then they moved. Lady Amnelis and his soldiers arrived at the river Kes. Suddenly, the big mouthfish appeared from beneath the river and broke the bridge. The soldiers shot arrows at it, and Lady Amnelis rode back from the bridge. Lord Maris, the captain of the 8th Blue Knight stationed at Toride, was seen riding towards the scene. And when he arrived, he bowed before Amnelis and addressed her. Princess Amnelis asked why he came, and he told her that Lord Rosen ordered them as reinforcements. Lord Rosen asked if she was sure of the direction the twins' pearl went, and she told him. Gus's divation board showed them the direction. He suggested that they send out reconnaissance parties to all directions to guide them, and Lady Amnelis accepted. Lord Maris entered and announced to Lady Amnelis that the reconnaissance troops had located the heirs of Paros. She asked him to take her to them, but Lord Maris refused because their opponent is a leopard man capable of defeating a grey ape, and he wished to test his mettle against him. Lady Amnelis granted his wish and asked him to go Estevan, left others, and decided to go for hunting. Suni followed him from behind. Guin stay with the twins, watching them as they sleep. Lord Maris was riding his horse towards their direction, and Guin could hear the galloping of his horse. He asked the children to wake up and then run. Lord Maris threw his sword towards their direction and jumped down from his horse. Guin asked who he was, and he told him. He's Maris of Mongol. The twins continued to run, and they wondered where Istan and Suni could have gone. Teremis concluded that Istan must have betrayed them. Guin and Maris began to fight, and it was like two elephants fighting. The Mongol soldiers also found the twins, and they chased after them. They stopped, and the soldiers surrounded them. Istan had turned, and he was watching them from the cliff top. He had a bad feeling, and so Akame back. Guin and Maris were still battling. Lin came from behind them and ordered them to stop fighting. Also, their twins had been captured by the soldiers. Guin and the twins were taken captive to Lady Amnelis. Rinda immediately knew she was the one who killed their parents. Maris ordered them to sit down. Amnelis faced Guin and asked who he was. He said his name was probably Guin. As he wasn't sure, she again asked why his head was that way, and he replied that it had been like that since his earliest memories, and he can't even explain why he existed. They thought he was lying, but Rinda confirmed it that when Guin appeared in the Rudwood, he had lost all of his memories. Lady Amnelis said there are ways to extract information even the person himself does not know. She then ordered Godus to perform a divination. On Guin, she asked why he assisted with the twins when he had lost his memories. He laughed, and he said he found her laughable. This got her provoked, and even Lord Maris, Lady Amnelis, asked Godu what the divination said, and he told her the crystal ball shows the image of a Singlegiant leopard. She asked him what that signified. Gus told her that leopard means nothing more than a leopard. Lady Amnelis then decided that they would go back to Alvin Keep and ordered the soldiers to bind Guin and the twins with rope and have them dragged behind. Guin begged her to give the twins a horse, even if they're going to drag me. But Renda asked her to ignore the request. The troops were heading to Alvin Keep together with Guin and the twins, but they were walking with their hands tied and not dragged. Jemis became afraid and said he didn't want to die. But Rind encouraged him to keep his head high and be proud until the last moment of death. Istan was still on the cliff watching them as they moved. Suni was trying to talk to him, but he shut her up. Soon her became angry, and then she left him. When he sighted Lady Amnelis, he imagined her Toby, the Shinning Lady. He was hoping to meet the sandworm, suddenly appeared and attacked. Some of the soldiers, the twins, became tired, and they complained of being thirsty. But Guin encouraged them to be strong, as they are, the heirs of Paros. The angel hairs appeared in Thesky. The angel hair is each strand of the soul of human who has died. Guin and their twins were kept in the cell, and they watched the angel hairs as they gathered. In the sky, one of the hair flew towards Rinda, and she got hold of it. The angel hair scattered, and it emitted light. Rinda said the angel hairs might perhaps be the many people burnt to ashes in the destruction of Paros, made manifest and come to greet them. Istan secretly landed in the camp of the soldiers. He entered one of the camp and began eating from their store. He used his rope to cause dust to flew in the air and set a beto. Distract the soldiers. The soldiers, parading, thought it was sandworm, and then they raised an alarm. Lean came in and announced to Lady Amnelis that there was sandworm attack, so they should take shelter. Istan appeared behind the two soldiers, guarding where GW and the Twawa, and hit them. He ran into the prison and found his allies there. Astrius, the captain of the Red Knights, and also known as Gora's Red Lion, destroyed the bait. Guin and the rest escaped riding on horses, and the soldiers pursue them immediately. Lord Maris discovered that they had been tricked and distracted, so the prisoners could escape. Astrius came up to Lady Amnelis and asked that she allow him be in charge of the pursuit lady. Amnelis granted his wish and ordered him to capture them alive. Astrius began the pursuit immediately, and in his mind he vowed that he was going to protect Lady Amnelis. Even if it takes his life, the twins on the run apologized to Istan for tagging him. A traitor Istan told them he had good reason for saving them, because the prophet that delivered him once told him that he would become a king of some landowner. Day and one day, a shinning lady would give him a kingdom in darkness. Istan asked Rinda what type of rewards she would give him if he was able to get them to Eros or Cronia. Rinda told him he could ask anything he wish if the throne of Peros is restored. He said he would like her to make him the Duke of Crystal, her right-hand man, meaning her husband. If she became the queen, Rinda became annoyed on hearing that Rinda asked Istan of Suni, and she told her she ran off after seeing them captured. The troops were almost close to them, and Yavan proposed that they hide, but Guin said he would try fighting them. Guin identified the dog's head and told them the rank village, but be within 1 tadarund. He asked them to meet in the village. He added that Yavan may be right when he said his homeland was Nosferus, because he just realized that he knew every nook and cranny and all that goes on in the land. He turned back and reminded them they would meet at Raku village. Astrius asked his soldiers to capture Guin alive, and they brought out their swords. Suni unexpected appeared before them with other Sem and was screaming Renda's name. Guin began to slay the soldiers. Istan returned to meet Guin and told him Suni's friends had come to save them. The SE then appeared and began to attack the soldiers. Guin climbed down from his horse and ran towards the soldiers, holding a sword. Guin and Istan came together and fought the soldiers back to back. The captain of the White Knights decided to report the situation to Lady Amnelis. Seeing that the battle wasn't going well, Guin ordered Istan to follow them because they intended to call reinforcement. Istan pursue them immediately. He encountered Asus on his way, and the both of them had a duel. Istan told Astrius that his company would be wiped away soon, and he saw that many of his soldiers were killed already by the semester and lost his sword while he continued the duel with Astrius, but Guin came to his rescue just in time. Guin told Astrius to go tell Lady Amnelis not to lay a finger on Nosferus, because if she did, he's going to stand against Mongol for all eternity. Astrius climbed his horse and ordered the rest of the soldiers to retreat, and they turned back. Istan asked Guin why he didn't kill him, and Guin told him he was curious about something, so he would follow them and find out their movements. The main forces of Mongol army had gathered to invade. Nosferus, Guin, and Istan were glancing at them from the clifftop. Istan said the soldiers were way too many just to chase after the heirs of Paros. Guin added that there must be some other reason for the invasion. Istan said the force was up to 15. 0110 men. Guin and Istan returned to Raku village, and the Sem kept shouting Riyadh excitedly. Suni and the twins also came out to welcome Guin and were happy they were safe. Lotto, the high chief of the Raku, joined the scene, and he could speak like human. He explained to them that Riyadh means leopard, and he asked Guin if he was the child. Is Alfido? Guin ignored his question and thanked him for saving them. Lotto said he should be Theoni to thank them for saving his granddaughter Suni, and told them they could stay with them as long as they wish. Guin asked Lotto to send out notice immediately to all the Sem tribes to gather. Lady Amnelis explained to the captain of each knight that clearing out the Sem is an important part of the invasion, but their real aim was to locate an area the Sem called Guru, which means the Valley of Miasma, so their final goal is to find the Valley of Miasma and construct a Mongol keep there. Lord Maris asked her why they must use such a force of 15,000 men. The fire was put out, and a scary man was seen. She then explained that the man is C. Moruan. Since the world began, he was the first to cross the wildland of Nosferus and return alive when he unveiled his scary face like a ghost, which got the captain. Shocked, all the tribes of the sea had gathered. Guin narrated to them that Mongol is making a serious military move into Nosferus, and they had around 15,000 men. The Sem leader were afraid that sea would be destroyed, but Guin told them they were going to fight, and that was exactly why he had assembled all the tribes. Rinda told Remis it's not possible for them to win against 15,000 men. One of the leader declined what Guin said and told him they would flee. Instead of fighting, the other leaders said they should fight the Mongol because they had nowhere to flee to. One of the S stood up and announced to them that Guin was the one who defeated Count Vanon of Staphos. Keep on hearing that the leader of Kue, one of the tribe of Sigrid, to fight Guin, assured them that there is a chance for them to win if all the Sem work together and join forces with one another. One of the leader told him that even if they join forces together, they are no more than 5,000 strong, but Guin told them to believe in miracles. Lady Amnelis continued that Kuru was a marvelous human, and in quest to become the apprentice to the legendary Megas Agraya, he set foot in the wildlands of Nosferus. C. Moru proposed to tell the rest of his story himself. A flashback was revealed, and C. Moru narrated that he walked among the cliffs and the sand, and he persevered for many months. Eventually, he set foot in a queer valley of miasma, and his crystal ball turned pure black and shattered into pieces, but still he headed towards the center of the miasma, like a moth to a flame. It was a valley of corpses, tree of bone, a bone island, adrift on a bone of sea, and in the center a giant rock. When he touched the stone with his hand, his body was transformed to that of a ghost. Back to the present. Lady Amnelis told them that their main objective was to solve the mystery of Ginyu and make it theirs, and also if they could find the device that allowed the twins to escape Crystal, all the world would become the domain of Mongol. Lord Maris wasn't very impressed with all Lady Amnelis said, but she told him not to be afraid, and then left. Guin was given a special sword, and he took it. Guin returned to the twins, wearing an armor, and Rinda commented that he must have been born a king. Somewhere Rinda asked Guin to let them fight too, but he was quiet. Istan arrived with a horse and told Guin that the leaders of the S were ready. Move out. Guin turned back and asked the children to follow him. The S gathered, and they hailed Guin. All the forces of Mongol soldiers were heading towards Nosferus. The S started their attack on sighting them. They set an ambush. Guin was watching from the top of Then the attack began. Many of the S were killed by Lord Maris. Lady Amnelis moved forward and began to command the troops. Asus reported that the S had retreated. Lord Maris sensed that Guin must be Theon behind the Sem forming ally because they never did that before. Guin asked Istan to put on the Blue Knight armor and disguise as them. One of the soldiers suddenly appeared before Lady Amnelis and reported to her that the Sem forces were approaching from the left rear, and they had a large force. Lady Amnelis then disassembled her forces. Guin and the Sem forces were moving towards the Mongol soldiers. Again, a soldier came to report to Lady Amnelis that the Sem force is estimated to be 10,000. Lady Amnelis then commanded the captains with him to stay in different locations. Guin and Sam approached the army of Mongol, and the soldiers got prepared. The Sam attacked the soldiers, but most of them were killed. Guin then approached them riding on a horse. He attacked the soldiers and slain most of them. 2. Astrius ran towards Guin and requested that he had a duel with him. Guin gave him a punch, and he fell off his horse. Guin told him he's not a match for him, and he should come back 20 years later. The order to retreat, but she refused. Von was hit by an arrow, and he died. Gus, who was behind, quickly ran off. 2 Lagin pushed the carriage where CM Moru was in, and it fell off the mountain. The Lagin was about attacking Lady Amnelis when Astrius came in between them and killed the Lagin. Astrius then ordered a retreat, and the Mongol soldiers retreated. The twins ran towards Guin. Renda told him she knew he was going to come save them. He told them that the Lagin showed him a passage through Dog's Head, called the Wind Hole, and they were able to make it in time. Suni was also brought back, and Drinda was so excited, Lotto asked what they will do if the Mongol came to attack again. But Guin told them that as long as the Ecchi and Lagin work together, they cannot touch them since Nosferatu, the land of both races. C proposed that Guin become the king of Nosferatu for both the S and the Lagin. Guin said it wasn't a bad idea since he loves the desert lady. Amnelis returned to Alvin Keha, father's castle. She reported that she couldn't accomplish his orders, and she decided to resign her post as the general and also accept any form of punishment. But on the contrary, her father asked her if she could dance, because she had commissioned a number of ball gowns for her. Flory and Lucia Ladium's maidens showed her the ball gowns lady. Amnelis was confused, but her father told her there are some battles that must be fought with charming smiles, and so she should study that form of combat lady. Amnelis refused her. Father told her she turned 18 that year, so she should head to Crystal and get married. Astrius was disappointed because she admired Lady Amnelis. She accepted the order and said she would rest a bit and then head to Peros. Her father told her that she didn't ask who she was going to marry. Lady Amnelis said she would not protest. Whoever it may be, her father told her she would be the one to find. The man Lady Amnelis recommended Astriasto be a commander under Mencius's command by the Kes. Astrias was surprised to hear that, but the captain beside him said he should just accept Lady Amnelis. Excused himself and left Lady Amnelis in her room, began to rant and was moving up and down in her room. Her maidens told her she was going to look beautiful in a wedding dress like the goddess of beauty, Saria. Lady Amnelis said she would rather love to be like Irana, the wife of the god Warua M. Lady Amel's brother entered the room and was sad her sister would be getting married. The leaders of the S continued to persuade Guin to become their king. He said he would love to, but he must continue to search for his destiny and himself. Rinda said Guin has some personification of Janos. Istam became jealous and said Rinda only thanked Guin as if he was a chopped liver. Rinda told him he really appreciated him saving them. Istam told her to make him the Duke of Crystal if she really appreciated him, but Rinda told him the Duke of Crystal Norris at present is still young and far better than him. Gallus, a merchant of Salamoved, a carriage with Duke Norris disguised as a lady inside. He told the guards at the border of Crystal that he wanted to go and reopen his shop in the Crystal. The guard said he smelt a woman. He opened the carriage and saw Regagus's daughter, but Gallus covered his face with a veil. Gallus told the guard that they were his attendants. The guard told him they are tasked to search for Duke Norris. Rhea came down and told the soldier she would offer herself to him, and he ordered the other guards to open the gate to Crystal. Gallus told Norris that Rhea would save herself since she was a proud, sword-bearing female. Knight of Crystal Norris vowed he was going to take back Crystal from the black hand of Mongol Queen Ema. The twins' aunt said, according to the runic rods, Rinda and Remis were alive. Prince Skull of Eris entered and told Queen Emma that Duke Norris was on the move and had entered. Crystal Beck said he would go meet Norris, and he left. Dodok insisted that Guin take the Lagin with him because they believed he was the messenger of Akra. Guin declined, and then Dodok challenged him to a duel. The both of them had a duel, and at the end, Guin won. Guin addressed the Sem and Lagan and told them he must go. Not that he was abandoning the land, he swore he was going to return to Nosferatu and asked them to wait until he returned. They promised to await his coming, and they already started to address him as their king. The Mongol soldiers appeared and wanted to attack Norris and Gallus. They were surrounded by quite a number of them, and so they succumbed. Duke Norris was tied and beaten. He was asked to surrender and reveal the secret of Peros, the ancient device. They said if they could make use of the device, they would be able to send a military unit wherever Wish Norris told them the likes of them cannot use the device, High Commander of the White Knights, Tarankami, in, and he ordered the release of Duke Norris. Now there was tension between the White and Black Knights of Mongol. A messenger from Kalos Shin came and reported to Crown Prince Skull that Kalos had gone to the Mongol side. Prince Kalos decided that they sound out Kos and joined together with Beck's family. He ordered Shin to spread word among the hands of the clans. Guin left, with Istan the twins. Suni and other Sem Remis felt lonely, because Rinda was now, with others leaving him behind them. He began to imagine things in his head. They finally reached the river Kez. Guin proposed they make a boat. First, Commander Taran told Norris that he was thinking of throwing a grand celebration in his honor, and he wished to introduce Lady Mongol Amnelis to him. Duke Norris knew their intention was to marry him Termilus and link the royal families, and it would pacify the citizenry, and Peros would be theirs at the grand celebration. Lady Amnelis met with Duke Norris. Amnelis was astonished seeing how Norris was so beautiful like a woman. When he couldn't hold herself anymore, she left. Remis in the middle of the night moves close to the river. Then he saw a bright light and saw the sky split. He walked into the river and he saw something. Strange. Remis woke up. He had been dreaming. Then the face of sea, Maru, appeared in the sky, and he requested him to show him what he wanted. Guin and his accomplice arrived in the town of Roses. They intended to cross the sea and head towards Eros. Duke Norris came to Lady Amnelis. Duke Norris decided to get married to Lady Amnelis, but she asked him of his betrothed Rinda. He told her she was still a child. Duke Norris decided to give Lady Amnelis a special name and called her his Shining Lady because of her look and beauty. Duke Norris asked the princess if he knew about Paras's ancient device. He told her it's a device that allows one to travel instantly to any part of the world. He told her to meet him at the Spire of Janos, so he could show her how the device works. He told her to come alone. Duke Norris meet with Lady Amnelis at the Spire of Janos. Duke Norris talked about her beauty, and she became irritated and was leaving in annoyance. LCA suddenly appeared from underground and gave a crystal to Norris. Told him Rinda and Remis were alive in Nosferus and were being protected by a leopard man, and he returned underground. Duke Norris asked her to follow him. Duke Norris showed Lady Amnelis the ancient device and told her the basic principles behind it are nothing but mystery. He told him the device had been there for longer than 0 years ago and is connected with the mythos of Paros's founding. The great sorcerers of Paros had constructed a barrier in order to protect the device, and that was why Mongol was not able to find it. He added that if he told her the Mongol armies could not set foot in the chamber, and even if they could, they would not be able to operate the device. Duke Norris pushed him into the device and threatened to send her away to some certain places. Lady Amnelis begged him to release her. Duke Norris released her, and she said she would return to her chamber. Duke Norris drew her back and kissed her. Duke Norris asked her to accept his love lady. Amnelis threatened that if he was toying with her heart, she would root out the entire kingdom of Peros and eradicate every trace of it from the world. Duke Norris promised to take that to heart, even announced to Guin and others that Eros had declared a war on Mongol. He told them he had found a ship that would take them to Eros. Istan also informed the twin that heard that Lady Amnelis is getting married to Duke Norris. Rinda was shocked because Norris was supposed to be betrothed to her. Rinda noticed that Remis had been behaving strange lately, and she asked her about it, but he told her it's nothing. June and others boarded the ship and headed towards Eros. Rinda complained that the ship was a pirate ship. Istan told her that no reputable ship would allow them board without prying. Remis told Rinda to stop complaining as it won't accomplish anything. Rinda was surprised at how Remis talked to him as if he was ordering her. The captain of the ship came to them and brought dinner and drinks to them. He asked why Guin never showed his face. Estefan told them he's just a pilgrim and not to worry about him. Estefan had to swear by the Holy Drin's blue jewel that his words were true. Istan told Suni not to eat the food because there's sleeping drug in it, and he emptied the bottle of drinks into the sea. The group of bandits entered their room, but they couldn't find them. There suddenly Guin appeared behind the captain and placed a sword on his neck, holding him hostage. Istan also jumped down from the roof and they moved. Outside, Istan told them they should promise they won't attack them again. The leader of the bandit said he doesn't care even if the captain was held hostage, and so they attacked them. Guin showed his face, and the bandit claimed that the storm must be a curse brought by Guin, and they called him a monster. Guin told them if they thought his presence would doom the ship, then he would throw himself into the sea. Istan wanted to stop him, but he told him to take care of the children. At that moment, a shining ship appeared on the sea. Istan said it was the same shining ship he saw long ago, and on it was inscripted Rand. The water entered the ship and Istan fell, and before he knew it, the shining ship was gone. Guin also was no longer seen. The captain of the ship wanted to strike Istan, but Rinda called his attention and there was a thunderstorm. Astria travelled to Crystal to search for Lady Amnelis. The soldiers guarding the gate moved close to him and asked him to show them his bill of passage. He climbed down his horse and told them he didn't have one. He then explained that he was the secret messenger of the Archduke Aeon. Of the soldiers then identifies him to be Astrius Valus of Salam, a wizard. From Malus joined the scene. He cast a spell on the soldiers and commanded them to open the gate, which they did. He called Astrius his brother and told him he had heard of him. From Malus, when Istan told Rinda that Guin had been swallowed up by the wave, she didn't believe it, and she said Guin was too strong to be defeated like that. Suna called Rinda to help her out from where she was, and she did. Strangely, Remis was sitting alone, and the way he looked and talked at them was completely unusual, and made them wonder what really changed. About him, the pirates had gathered again. Remis picked a sword to fight with them, while Rinda and Istan watched him. In amazement, Istan fought the soldiers, and then they held Rina hostage. Istan was commanded to drop his sword, and he did. Istan unexpectedly used his rope to wrap the neck of the one holding Rinda, drew him close, and slain him with his sword. Remis poured oil on the rest of the pirates and threatened to burn everyone down if they didn't surrender. Istan couldn't believe his eyes that it was Remis putting up such an act. Remis also promised to give the pirates 100 ron if they take them safely to their destination. The pirates surrendered and asked him to put out the fire. Simon Duke Norris' messenger announced to him that they had a visitor. Rhea came in and bowed before him. Norris moved closer to her, bent down and kissed her hand. Rhea told her he shouldn't lower herself. Norris told her that her father had been so worried about her. They both had a drink. Then Regia explained that she was taken by a unit under the captain of Black Knights, Captain Kassan, and in order to track their movements, she got herself close to Kastan's right-hand man. Dallas Norris told her it's dangerous, but she said she would do anything for his sake and that of Peros, because she and his father felt he was suited to be Paros's king. So Prince Remis getting missing might actually a blessing, and even if he would have to marry Renda to be the king, so be it. Norris wanted to reward Rhea, and he asked what she wanted. She answered that all she wished was to be by his side, as his shadow and sword. Simon announced to Norris that Lady Amnelis was there to see him. Rhea decided to leave, and she met Amnelis on her way, and they stared at each other for some minutes. Rhea bowed and left. Amnelis entered and asked Norris who she was, and he told her she was one of her retainers. Amnelis moved close to him and asked if he still remembers her words, if he betrayed her. The both of them then kissed again. Rinda sat outside the ship, awaiting Guin to return. Istan walked to her and told her to give up since it was 10 days already. Rinda declined and said Guin was special, so she believed they would meet again because Guin would not die. She felt her destiny and Guin's was one. Estevan, in his mind, thought about his own destiny too. Renda stood up and saw Remis watch them. Suni also waved at the Remis, then pointed in a direction, and Rinda saw an island. Istan told them that they would escape from the ship that night because there's hardly any water or food left in the ship. Istan and the children escaped to the island. Rinda said there was someone on the island. She stared at Istan and, for the first time, she became attracted to him. She walked close to him and sat beside him. Rinda apologized for always lashing out on him. Anytime he talks, Rinda talked about her losses and cried. He even consoled her, and he swore to always protect her. Without fail. Rinda smiled at him, and he kissed her. Prince Skull walked into the palace to meet his brother King Saku. There Valerius, the wizard, was with him. He asked the king to give him orders to send out troops to Duke Beck because he was in trouble. He added that Kalos had sent 20 Zero men to the front against Beck, and so he needed help. He introduced Valerius to him as Jaru, who came from Crystal Palace, and he had come to ask for 60,000 men from Earl. Ghost Skull told him that was basically all the men they had at that moment. Jaru said something into Skull's ear, but Skull hit him. He then knew he was a wizard since he did not scream when he hit him. Prince Skull said he wasn't going to join whatever they were. Plotting Skull decided to leave and go save Duke Beck with the citizens of Highlands, because he was sure they would never betray him. Prince Skull ordered Shin, one of his men, to light signals fire to all Highlander riders so they could gather in his name. Prince Lear promised he would fight by his side. They then headed to Runan Oasis. Prince Skulland. His men arrived at Runan Oasis, and immediately they started to attack the Ko'o's soldier, Duke Beck, when he saw that ordered his soldiers to attack as well. Prince Skull asked the men to retreat and climb down from his horse. Shin and the Highlanders had gathered. Princess Cole said a long battle had begun. He said the battle would determine if Peros Earl GH alliance would be blown apart, or Mongol would disappear. Granth inquired from Norris what his true intentions were towards Amnelis. Duke Norris said he truly loved Amnelis in his heart. Granth asked what he would do about the people of Peros. He answered that that was his first true love, so they needed to forgive him, because he was going to marry her as his wife Gran was. Shocked to hear this, Duke Norris told him total others that love him to pray for his happiness, because the day of their wedding had been set Istan, and the rest were being pursued by the pirates from the ship. They ran towards a cave, but the pirates caught up with them. Istan asked the twins and Sunni to run away while he fought with the pirates. While they were at it, Istan lost his sword. Someone then suddenly descended to the scene. Surprisingly, it was Guin. He fought the pirates with his bare hand. The pirates were shocked to see him alive again, because they thought he had been swept away in the storm. The pirates then Florinda ran happily towards Guin and hugged him. Sunni also jumped on his shoulder. Even asked how he was saved, but he said he didn't know that himself. He further stated that after he saw the shining ship with the word Rand on it, he fell unconscious, and when he woke up, he'd washed up on the shore of the Highland. Istan remarked that it was a mystery. Rinda then remembered Remis wasn't there with them. Remis then walked up to them and said he had gone to check what was inside the cave. Istan commended his bravery, but Guin and Rinda stared at him. He now had an evil grin. Istan asked him what was inside the cave, but he told him to go see it himself. They all entered the cave with torches. A water drop dropped on Istan. He became scared. Sunni laughed at him. Seeing Remis walking with Guan, Renda said it was rare for Guin and Remis to walk together. Guin advised Remis on how to become a great king. He also commended his bravery, but he told him people would go as he went. They would either become swords facing against him or swords that he gripped himself. Remis said he was talking about Istan, because if he marries Rinda, he would compete for the throne with him. Guin told him it's possible. Guin promised to help him any time he needed him. The ground of that cave began to shake, and they saw a bright light ahead of them. Renda suggested that they run out of the cave, but Remis asked them to wait. They observed the ball of light closely, and Rinda said it looked like the mysterious ancient device in Peros. Every other person only saw it as a ball of light. Rinda said she could see it as a light with life, and the children of light were protecting the mysterious device. She realized that something huge was awakening, and then she fainted. They all ran out of the cave. Unexpectedly, the pirates attacked them again. Remis told them it's dangerous to be on the island, so they should run. A monster suddenly erupted from the ground and immediately captured one of the pirates, while the monster attacked the pirates Guin, and the rest ran off. Rinda woke up and hesked Guin to put him down. She faced the mountain, and she prayed that the monster stopped. They jumped inside the sea and hurried towards the pirate ship behind them. The ball of light erupted out of the mountain and splitted it apart. Rema said the ball light was the same as Théon he saw in his dream, and what he once saw in Nosferus Desert. It was reported to Archduke Vlad Lady Ames's father that his daughter had fallen in love with Lord Norris. He was disappointed. Ash never thought Lady Amnelis could actually fall for Norris, and she called her a foolish daughter. He decided that they had to strike, but it would happen after the wedding so that Amnelis would become the successor to the throne. So, they planned to kill Duke Norris on the night of the wedding. But not in front of Amnelis, though, because she might rush and do something foolish without thinking. They reminded her about the twins. He said he would leave the matter up to Shido Miao, Lady Ames's brother. Arrived at the court, the king had summoned him. He asked him if he was aware of Amel's wedding date, and he answered yes. His father told him he would head to Cronia after the wedding. He was going to be betrothed to the daughter of Emperor Archelaus, Princess. Sylvia Mel went back to his room crying. Malus arrived at Staphos and entered the restaurant. He met the restaurant attendant. Gdu gave him a free drink. He appreciated him and promised to sing him a song later. Malus asked Garo the best way to get to Nosferus. He gave him the description and began to cry. Malus asked him why he was crying, and he told him when he talked of Staphos. He couldn't help but think of his lost boy Orogaruro's father, said his boy was a hard worker. His pride and joy, Malus picked up his guitar and began to sing the song. Moved everyone's heart, and Gdu began to cry again. Junus Meal's servant walked up to him and asked for his name. Janissaire turned to Meal's room and told him he had a gift for him that should cheer him. Up he asked him to close his eyes for armament, and he did that. Malus walked into the room with his guitar and began toasing. Meal opened her eyes and was amazed at how Malus sang when he ended the song. Junus clapped for him and told Meow more about Malus. He told him he could ask him about strange and far-off kingdoms because he was a great traveller. Mial asked him to talk about far-off countries, and Malus excitedly told him about them. Yvonne and the rest were on the ship they had been wandering on. Waves for 4 days. Guin asked Remus what I had to say about the ball of light, and he told him it's not something of that world. He added that there was something there in Nosferus, and there's something that was even suspicious that it is only in that area. Strange creatures live. He said if he could unravel the mystery, manipulate both the power of the flying ships and the ancient device in peril, he could reign over the entire world, and he thought Guin could be the key secret to the mystery. Suddenly the military vessel was seen on the sea. It was the Agia. Military ship AGA was the largest of the coastal kingdoms. They thought Agia should be completely neutral in the current battle, and if they negotiate, they should be able to take them close to Eros. They then send their distress signal. Mao told Malus that his sister would be getting married very soon in Peros. He took him to the room and showed him the portrait of Duke Norris. He said at first he didn't want his sister to get married, but when Junus got him Norris's picture, it didn't seem so bad anymore. Mel then thought of playing a song for them on their wedding day. He also told him about his wedding at Chironia. Me wasn't ready for marriage yet, but he said he had no choice since his father was the one that said it. Malas in his mind said M was oozed to giving up on everything, like he was 10 years ago. Malus was Norris's younger brother, born to a handmaiden, a boy with wise eyes, hiding in a corner of the Crystal Palace trying to avoid everyone. And he was called Aline. But now Malus me called back his attention by asking him if he was always going to be by his side. Malus promised he would always stay near him. LCA appeared to Malus in his room. He told him he no longer needed to go to Nosferus because they had reports that a ship of Agria had picked up 2 beautiful twins and a large man with a strange figure, so he had new orders from Duke Norris. His brother, he asked him to take Mongols young. Herr Mao Malus cut in and said he can't lay his hand on a 14-year-old boy. LCA told him that even the young scorpions are poisonous. Malus that night entered Meal's room with a knife in to stab him, but he couldn't. Lord Rhinus told Valus, his messenger and foster son, that they would not allow Lady Amnelisto marry Duke Norris or any member of the Holy Peros family. He also narrated to him that Norris told him not to tell the general Peros citizenry that Remis was alive. Valeris said if Race died, Norris could become the king, and also if Archduke Vlad and Mil died, he could become the Archduke of Mongol. Lord Rhinus pledged his loyalty to Peros, but Valeris said he would only remain loyal to him because he was the one that raised. LCA appeared to Malus again. Malus then sent him to his brother Norris to tell him there is no longer need to kill him. All as he now had him in the palm of his hands, he further said it would be better to assassinate Archduke Vlad instead and put Malal in his place where he could manipulate Mongol, because Malal would do anything. He also stated that he would handle Vlad assassination. Duke Norris and Amnelis were locked inside Saria's tower before they married. It was a custom for every Pero citizen to be locked in the tower. Before marriage, he removed the veil on her and gave her a cup of wine to drink. Norris explained that it is called the Saria's drink, and it is made of Kalam wine. It is the final test of the two hearts. Before Saria, if one truly does not wish to marry before the night is over. Amnelis drank the wine, and she fainted. Valus, who had housed Astrius in his home, gave him a black knight's uniform and a sword seeped with poison to assassinate. Norris Lady Amnelis awoke and was all dressed in her wedding attire. Her maidens compliment her beauty and dress. Lady Amnelis told them she used to be a brave and fearless lady, but now her chest was beating even faster than before going to battle. Her maidens assured her she was going to be the happiest maiden in the world. The citizens of Pero stood before the gate of Saria's tower. They had all come for the wedding ceremony. Lady Amnelis was seen in a carriage moving towards Saria's tower. She was worried the people of Peros won't bless their marriage since she was a lady of the country that occupied their kingdom. Duke Norris also arrived. At the gate of the Saria's tower, the Peros citizens lamented that they didn't want him to marry a Mongol woman. Norris ordered the carriage to be stopped. He addressed the people and appreciated their love towards him. But he told them he decides the action headaches, so if they loved him, they should believe in him, and he promised he would never betray Paris or its people. The people became happy after hearing his words, and they hailed him as the new Paros king. Miel couldn't sleep, and so hesked Malus to play a song for him. Malus stood up to get his guitar, and Miel called him back and told him to come back quickly. Malus returned with his guitar, and he saw him was already on his bed. Suddenly Leluca appeared to him, and Malus was shocked to see him. He asked him when he returned to the capital, and he told him he never went to the capital, that he only spoke with Norris using the spire of Janos. He dropped his guitar and moved close. Meow. He found a knife with blood on it on his bed. Then he realized LCA had killed Meow. Janis centered and saw Malus holding a knife and accused him of killing Miel Malastrid to explain to him that he wasn't the one that killed him. But he wasn't listening. Janis, as he wept, brought out his sword and fought with Malus. Malus at the end stabbed Janus with the knife with him, and he died. Two knights walked into the room, and Malus wished all that just happened was a dream. He bent down and disappeared into the ground. Astrius was able to enter the tower, dis-ed as a black knight. He admired Amnelis in her bridal dress and called her his personal goddess. When he saw Duke Norris, he vowed he would not allow him to have Amnelis, for she is hers. Amnelis and Norris moved close to the priestess who was standing behind the altar of goddess Sarah. The priestess asked Norris to write his name in Sarah's book. Then Astrius attacked him with the sword, and it cut his arm. Norris fell down, and Amnelis screamed. The soldiers captured Eris and restrained him. A lady carried the sword. Eris used, and Valerius quickly followed her, but she vanished. Norris came back to live, and Lady Amnelis was released. Dee cherished towards the culprit, removed his helmet, and then she found out it was Asteris. She was shocked, but then asked the soldiers to take him away. Norris lost consciousness, and then they discovered he had been poisoned and he'd passed away. Lady Amnelis was weeping, while Flori consoled her. She was also informed that her brother Miel had been assassinated. Then she cried bitterly. Astrius was lying in the prison, the Socorus appeared to him. Atterus asked him how he entered without the cell having, a window he told him to follow, him as he was one of his allies that had come to save him. Eris said, no, saying he didn't want to be fooled, again, and he didn't remember who fooled again. Valius headed Eris's cell, and when he got there, Eris was gone, Duke Norris was. With Gran Norris was able to deceive the Mongol that he was dead. He had earlier predicted that they would try to kill him, and he had also prepared for them. Now he said the plan of revenge had begun. Lady Amnelis was returning back to Alvin. She wept bitterly for her brother and Norris. She vowed never to love again. She said farewell to both her brother and Norris because she thought he was dead. Malas was also beside Ariva. He had decided to leave everything, and he said farewell to his brother, past life, and loved ones. He decided to journey far away. Ramis met with the daughter of King Vulgo. Redi Almina had told her he was heading to the audience chamber to see her father. Then she offered to show him there. Rinda was seen dressed like a princess and was utterly beautiful when Istan came in and saw her. He asked if she was really the one. He came in and said the king wanted to see her in the audience chamber. He offered her his hand, but she told him she would be fine alone. Rinda left with him to the chamber. Istan and Gwen were together. Istan said it was good that the Greyer ship that rescued them brought them to the palace, but he felt off. He complained about the formality that the twin no exhibited. Guin then told him it should be like that. Since they are royalty, the twins were before the king of Agia asked them what they wanted from him. And Remis answered that he wanted to borrow his soldiers one squadron. He further said they would be travelling to Eros, and when he arrived there, he would return them back to him. Agia was the ruler of the sea. Remis requested of the king that Agia would remain the good friend of Paris. Like it has always been, the king also requested that Remis take his daughter as his wife. But Remis told him he would come back for her after he had settled things in his own country. Remis and others prepared to leave. Remis assured Almina that he was going to come back for her. The king told him he had sent a message to Earl Gh. Rinda rode in a carriage with Suni, while Remis, Istan and Gwen rode a horse. Captain Clon of Mongol Black Knights called his maid Lena to bring a cup of wine, and then he told her to prepare the white room. But Lena said it was not tidied up, so he should use the green room. Karsten sensed she was hiding something because it's unlike her. He stood up and walked into the room. Then he saw a beautiful lady standing. Lena apologized, saying she was her friend that she called over. Caslon stared at her and said he had seen her face before somewhere. The lady was Norris dressed as a woman, and Herr revealed himself to Caslon. He told Caslon that his body was doubled. So the dead body was his body, double clone. Then saw that he had deceived them, and Lady Amnelis Norris talked about how they had intended to kill him on his wedding night. Norris asked him to give up on Mongol and joined him, but he refused. To called Rhea and told Caston that Lena was actually Rhea. The daughter of his trusted servant Norris told him that they are gathering armies to take back Parasfer. The more Duke Beck and Skull of Eris were proceeding northward to Peros with a large force. Norris told Carslin that a time would come when he would have to work for him, and when he reclaimed Peros she shall have Ridge a hand in marriage. Then at that time he would be hailed Asa Saviour of Peros. Rinda and Remis arrived at Queen Emma, their aunt's place, at Eros. Queen Emma hugged Rinda tightly. She had been so worried about them. The twins were already 15 years old. King Saku Imma's husband also came out. Towel come them, one of the priests of the spire of Janos and Peros. Jaru also joined the scene, and he welcomed them. Remis, right there, declared himself as the one and only rightful king of Perosistan, took Rinda to a certain place to see a beautiful view. He told her that, the first time he saw it, he thought it was the palace of the future, and he wished she would be his queen if he was to live there someday. And that's why he showed it to only her. The view starts to disappear. Istan told her the view was just a mirage, and you can only see it for a brief moment. Before sunset, when the view finally disappeared, Istan told Drinda he wasn't heading back to with them, as they needed to part ways. Rinda reminded him of his promise to always be by his side and protect her. He told her, the feelings haven't changed. But when Akame, to Eros, he realized that he wasn't in a position to speak casually with her. She said she was going to make him the Duke of Crystal if his position worries him. Even began to narrate that for a long time he had believed that his shining lady would make him a king, and because he loved Rinda so much, he can't become a king through her power. So to come back and be with her as his queen, he had to become a king through his own power. Easter Fan promised to come back to get her after he had become a king. Rindathan told him she would wait for him for as many years as it takes. Istan said that he would come back after 3 years. Istan cut out some of his hair and gave her as a symbol of his love. Some group of men attacked the Agaya soldiers and asked them where Guin was. One of them, being threatened to be killed, revealed to them that Guin was an earl. The Council of the Coastal States had Avarin meeting. Together the chairman of the council informed them that a second Black Dragon War between Paros and Mongol is about to occur, and the king of Agia Volg Violent had requested that the fleets of the 6 coastal states be dispatched. King Vulgo added that if they leave Mongol be, their evil hand would surely stretch towards the coastal states, around whom the world's trade revolves, so they must nip the bud of Mongol's ambition, while there's still time when they could fight. They then agreed to seal off Mongols' occupying forces and order troops dispatched to rescue Paros. Then the chairman called the meeting to a close. Istan saw that Ammon was being pursued by soldiers. He followed them from behind the soldiers, caught up with the man, and fight with him. They decided not to kill him, but take him with them and make him talk. Istan came in between them and defeated all the soldiers. He moved close to them, and who was already lying on the floor. He asked who Istan was, and he told him he's a mercenary. He gave him a letter to take to Mongol. If he was able to deliver it, he would get whatever reward he wanted. Istan collected it and promised to deliver it. But he requested for a symbol to prove that he was acting for him. The man gave him a chain and gave up. The ghost Captain Taran told his men that the situation had worsened because there were many rebel forces against the Mongols. He asked Caslon to lead the Black Knights and suppress the rebel forces, but he declined. He said he was the commanding officer in charge of policing Crystal, and he did not recall being relieved of that responsibility. In his mind, he knew that Norris had predicted the rebel forces. He then ordered Brook and Naran, the White Knights, with him to go for him. Castan bowed and excused himself. Naran observed that Caslon must have had some backing to have gone against them. Klon reported back to Norris that the rebelling forces are on the move, and he told him that Bro and Naron are calling up the forces. In Yuno, Norris told him that the order might not reach Yokastan. Now believed in Norris, but Norris told him to wait for his orders. King Stack and the rest were worried because Prince Skull and Duke Beck didn't report back to them anymore. Remis said when his forces move out, they would not count Skull's forces in their plans. Remis decided they would go for war the next day, since the Earlgo could put forth around 35,000 troops. Remis moved out with Jaru. Remis told him that when he entered the Crystal Capital, he would have his own troops in front. So, it would not be the Earlgoyan army that took back Crystal, but him. He then forbid Jaru not to tell Norris about his plan, and that all Paris's king and sorcerers must vow and pledge themselves to him alone. Remis came out to meet Guin. Guin talked about how Remis had transformed and how interesting he had become. While they were still talking, an assassin appeared behind Guin, but he dodged his strike, the Katai assassin sent by Mongol soldiers. The twins got ready to head out for the war. The king and queen of Earl Gh bid them farewell and prayed for their victory. The king asked that Guin continue to take care of the twins. Then they headed out to the battlefield. Istan went through the secret message the man he rescued gave him. Then he realized that Paros' existence depends on it. The thought of trading it on exchange for becoming Mongol royalty. Then he remembered Count Maris, the one he burnt down at the Sem village. He then decided that taking the letter to another country would offer him better price. Melia, the lady that offered him shelter. When he left Guin and others came in and told him she had gotten him a good horse. She took him to where the horse was, and he climbed on it. He gave her the chain. The man that gave him the secret letter gave him. He then left the soldiers that were pursuing the man. With the secret letter came to Milia and asked who Istan was. She told them he was just a customer. The soldier collected the chain from her and saw that it was the crest of Mongol. He told the other soldiers that Istan was a spy and ordered them to go after him. The soldier then slain Milia. The soldiers continued to pursue Istan. The citizens of Peros began to attack the Mongol soldiers. They were throwing peppers at Captain Caslon and his soldiers. The soldiers left Captain Caslon, and Regia came to rescue him. She took him to a room and asked him to head to Crystal Palace. Immediately there were 500 soldiers within the palace. She told him to concentrate on his men around the Knight's Gate, and they would attack the eastern and southern gates, and the sorcerers had already occupied Ransel Gate. He added that Taran would attempt to escape through the Knight's Gate toward Yuno, and if that happens, he should get rid of Taran. Regia was getting the citizens of Peros Reed up at the temple. She urged them to stand up and wield their sword and defeat Mongolother men. Also supported her to encourage the people. It was reported to Captain Kos, captain of crossbow unit, that the citizens' riot had swelled to 20. That's 10 times their number. The citizens began to attack the soldiers with fire and spears. The soldiers killed many of the citizens. At that moment, the holy knights of Paros arrived at the scene, and their cap asked the citizens to retreat while they take over. Part of the knights were Rhea and Norris, and they moved their helmet to show themselves. The soldiers were shocked to see that Norris was still alive. He ordered the knights to attack, and the citizens also joined them. Captain Caston told Commander Taran that he had prepared forces to send him off to Yuno. He told him Norris was the one behind the uprising's commander. Taran then realized that Norris was Kason's backer. He asked them to wait for a moment and turn back inside. When Caslon checked his room, he was nowhere to be found. Caslon checked through his window, and he saw him running away. He jumped through the window and wanted to follow him. Unexpectedly, he saw Brook with other knights standing before him. He ordered him to resign himself and tagged him. Traitor. The Black Knights also arrived, and Klon commanded them to capture Taranbut. They brought out their sword and pointed it at him. He remembered Rhaegar, his betrothed wife, and then ran towards their sword and got stabbed at that moment. It was reported to Brook that Ransel G had already been taken by sorcerers, and the southern and eastern gates were about to fall under the direction of Norris's rebel forces. Remis became worried of how he was going to stand above people, to lead people, and rule over a country. Gwyneskid. If he was becoming a coward, he told him it usually would take time for anyone to become used to being king. As time went by, he would naturally grow into the role of a king. Rinda came in and told them he had the results of divination. She said it's best to wait for an all-out attack, that the tides of battle will shift soon, and it would be brought by a messenger from the north. When that comes, the tides of battle would turn in their favor. Remis said he wanted to grab victory himself as a king. Should Runda was shocked at Race's response. Norris informed Rhea that Kason's body had been found. He said Hetrid to kill Taran, but he was killed. Instead, Rhea mourned him. Norris asked why she was crying for Caslon, and she told him she loved him because his feelings towards her were pure, and he was honest. A messenger came to Remis and Rinda from Iaros and Peros. The messenger from Aros reported that the 6 allied coastal states had officially declared war on Mongol, and their combined fleets was led by Vulgo Aeon, king of Agria. Also, LCA from Peros reported that Norris had led a volunteer army in rebellion, retaking the Crystal Palace. He said that Norris also asked him to tell Remis to rout Colossus soon as possible and enter Peros since the citizens await his return. As the rightful king, he said he had a message to deliver to Remis in secret, and they moved into a room together. He gave him a letter from Norris, and after reading through he burnt the letter. He said he understood what he was trying to say, but he would be the one to decide what to do with his proposal. He then told Luca he could go back to Peros. He said no. Norris asked him to assist Jaru and stay by Race's side for a while. Remis, in his thoughts, said Norris was being used to see if he had what it takes to be King Remis. then agreed that Estay's Rinda was worried about Reis's present attitude and how he talked back at her. Guin told her not to worry that Remis was acting that way because he was in the middle of growing up. While they were still talking, a giant man appeared behind Guin. And when he turned back to see, they asked Rinda and Suni to stand back. The giant was the ruler of revenge assassins hired by Mongol. The giant had a little man standing on his shoulder. He was his accomplice. He boasted that Guin would not be able to defeat them then. The fight began. The giant strangled Guin's neck, but as Guin roared, he slain the giant with his sword and it dissolved. He also slain his accomplice, and he died immediately. Funny enough, it was just one person from the beginning. The giant was only his shoulder, Lady Amnelis and one of her maidens. Flory stood at Mile, her brother's grave. She said she became a knight and wore men's clothing because she was jealous of him, because he was their father's favorite. Duke Vlad also joined them, and he said he never knew Amnelis and Mao were alike, and they took after their mother. Duke Vlad said he came to talk about Amnelis's marriage, and he began to cough. He said he had gotten weak ever since Meal died, and he knew he needed an heir. Quickly he declared to Amnelis that she needed to get a man and get married, so she could give birth to a boy. Amnelis declared, saying she wasn't an object, but a human, even if he was the only lady of Mongol. A white knight came to report to Duke Vlad that the Crystal Palace had fallen to the rebel forces and was led by Norris. Duke Vlad and Amnelis were shocked to hear that because they thought he had died, the knight told them that the one that was killed on the wedding day was a double body and the criminal Astrias was being manipulated by Peros. Moreover, it seemed that the disturbance in other lands was just a diversionary tactic. Duke Vlad ordered that they gather everyone for a strategy meeting. Amnelis realized she had been deceived by Norris, and she wept bitterly. Amelis cut off her hair and said she had cut off the woman in her. She said what pained her most was not Norris's deception, but she realized she still loved him. After his betrayal, she pulled off her dress and cast it inside fire. Amnelis entered her father's palace dressed in her warrior attire. Her father asked why she cut her hair, and he told him she had thrown away her womanhood and devoted herself entirely to being the general and lady of Mongol. She asked her father to order her to take control of Paros, and she was going to kill Norris. Duke Vlad gave the order, and she gladly accepted. Prince Skull announced to his men that Norris had taken over the Crystal Palace. He said Mongol would send army to take control of Peros back, and they were going to attack the army prince. Beck added that they would be heading to the border of Peros and Mongol-istan, overheard them from where he was hiding, and he knew it was Princess Skull of Eros, the Mongol, also gathered their forces of 50,000 knights. Lady Amnelis vowed she was going to kill the man that betrayed her. Norris, a messenger, came to report to Norris that a strange fellow had entered Peros. The divination board shows a great red star entering the shrine of victory. He asked them to bring him as he wished to meet him. Istan was captured and taken to Norris. Istan was shocked when he introduced himself. To him he knew that was the man betrothed to Rinda. Norris asked him to tell him the reason why he was in Paris. Estevan gave the secret letter and heard through in the letter. It was written that the fleets of the coastal states will act like it is heading towards Ross. However, at Ross the king of Asia will be assassinated, and they will defect to Mongol. Norris said it would be a problem if it was true. Istan swore that it was true, and Norris said he believed him. He also revealed that he saw Skull Force 3 days ago, and he said they were going to strike forces sent from Mongol to control Paros. Istan requested that Norris make him one of his knights. Istan granted his request and gave him a ring. Lady Amnelis forces and Mongol forces met. The white knights shot their arrows Skull, but none hit him. Lady Amnelis ordered the soldiers to attack, but the captain beside her told her they should retreat while they argue that Lady Amnelis received a report that Commander Taran was dead and 30,000 Mongol troops had also fallen. Duke Beck rode towards Amnelis and claimed he was going to take her life. Duke threw the arrow at the horse leg and she fell off her horse. The Holy Knights of Paros were heading to Mongol Rhea, and his father wondered why Norris placed Istan by his side, because he always enjoyed himself whenever Istan was around him. Duke Norris asked Estevan what he wished to do and implored him to tell the truth. Esteban said he wished to be a ruler, aching of his own castle and country. He was born grasping a jewel in the palm of his hand. And the old wet nurse said he was going to be a king one day. Istan said he believed in his fate, that he would become king. One day Norris said he and Istan were alike because they were both. Possessed by ambition, Ryo came to Norris and told him he had a message from Prince Skull. He said after they had weakened the forces led by Lady Amnelist, they moved 20 mads north of Yona, Tora joined forces. Norris then told the messenger to report back to Skull that they should wait for them to join forces. Remus was worried about the letter Norris sent to him, and he came to share his thoughts with Guin. The letter said this as communications between Mongol and Kalos had been cut off. Leak then used that a Mongol had fallen, and while Kalos is reeling, make a peace offer, and Kos would surely accept. Guin said it was a good plan, but it looked like he was ordering him. But Guin said if he was in his position, he would proceed with Norris's plan. He told him he must not think about his achievement, because he was predisposed to think of himself as a puppet for others, because he was going to become a king. Rinda and Suni were watching them from afar. Suddenly 2 assassins appeared behind Remus, and Remus was captured by one of the assassins, and the assassin threatened to kill him if he moved. Guin was asked to drop his sword, then he knew he was their real target, and Remus was only held hostage. The assassin called Guin the incarnation of Dole, according to what his master Shido had said, and he wondered if he knew about his identity. Guin dropped his sword and began to sink into the ground. The other assassin strangled his neck, but Guin picked up his sword and stabbed him. Suni also attacked the other assassin, and Guin finished him off. Norris told Istan about his ambition to become a mighty ruler that knows the ultimate secret of the world, and also to find a suitable partner, and thankfully he said he was on his way to obtaining both. Istan asked if the partner he spoke about was Rinda, and he said yes, he had chosen Rinda because she had a rare power to see the future. Istan asked if they loved each other, and Norris answered that the both of them wish nothing but the best, so they complement each other even. Became sad on hearing that, and then he excused himself. He moved to the riverside, and in his thoughts knew that Norris was going to take Rinda from him. Istan then decided to leave Norris's side to find his destiny. Rhaegar reported to Norris that Istan had gone, and he felt disappointed. Guin decided to go to Taurus by himself, because the assassins were aiming for his life, and also should find out who he was, as Shido the assassin master might know about his true identity, but Rinda did not want him to leave. One of the Black Knight's captains suggested Tome Nellis that they should retreat, because Prince Skull had joined forces with Norris, but Amnelis declined. A soldier came in and reported to her that Norris' force had headed in the direction of Zamnelis, then ordered the captain to move their forces to Z as well. Gajus asked her to wait for a moment, that he saw that a star of misfortune had entered Taurus, so it would be better if they turned to Taurus. But Amnelis never had a change of mind. Guin decided to leave the twins and son, seeing that they couldn't convince him to stay any longer. They bid him farewell. Rinda still ran after him and wept when she fell. She prayed that Guin return to them. Some day Duke. Vlad was having a conversation with his subjects. Then he began to cough, and then he laid his head on the table and gave up the ghost. Guin met with Shido, and he told him he was truly the incarnation of Dole. Guin asked what that meant, and he told him he was the root of evil in the world, an evil soul that would bring destruction to all the people and the world itself. Guin couldn't believe that was his true identity. Shido continued that he had committed a lot of crimes in the past. Guin asked him who he was, and he said he was the true hero that would exterminate the root of evil. Shido stretched his hand, and he stopped Guin's leg so that he could no longer move. He gave him a punch on his head, and he fell off. It was reported to Lady at Z that her father had died. General Rosen ordered her to return immediately and withdrew from the battle. Lady Amnelis was disappointed because she wouldn't be able to see nor battle with Norris anymore. It was also reported to Norris that the Mongol soldiers had retreated to Taurus. Princess Skull suggested that they go after them. Then Prince Beck ordered the soldiers to go after them. While Lady Amnelis was on her way back to Taurus, she received a report that 50 Kumin soldiers were ahead of them, calling them to surrender. Kum is one of the 3 allied duchies of Gora. But now, they betrayed them when they learned of Duke Vlad's death, so they sided with Paros. Lady Amnelis ordered the soldiers to attack the soldiers ahead of them. The soldiers killed many of the Mongol soldiers. Princess Skull's force also arrived, and the battle began. Prince Skull force also killed many of the Mongol soldiers. Duke Norris force also joined the scene captain of the White Knights, came to Lady Amnelis and asked her to order a retreat, but she declined, saying Mongol would be destroyed along with her. When Norris came into view, the White Knights captain gave Lady Amnelis a punch in her stomach, and she fainted. Remus announced to his soldiers that they would now head back to Paros. Guin was tied up by Shido, said he was going to meet the twins at Paros. He then brought out a knife, and when he was about to stab him was an explosion, and he ran away. General Rosen was informed that almost all the knights had been wiped out, and the Cumin had captured Lady Amnelis. Lady Amnelis woke up and saw Flory beside her. She asked Flory what was wrong, and she narrated to her that the Mongol had surrendered to Kum. She asked her what had happened to Mongol, and Taurus Flory stood up and replied that Mongol was attacked by Peros Khan and the coastal states. So the Mong surrendered unconditionally. Lady Amnelis became so sad. She had lost her brother, father, and even her country. Flory tried consoling her, but she stood up and was looking for something to kill herself. Saying she can't face the shame, Flory told her that they had removed everything sword and hairpins because they predicted she might harm herself. Flory then encouraged her to be strong, since she was the only one Mongol had now, and through her Mongol can be reborn. Commandor Cameron of Vakia from coastal states walked up to Prince Skull. He told Skull that for the time being, Mongol would be entrusted to Kum Nandulania Prince. Leah came to tell Skull that the preparations for their departure were completed. Princess Skull said he would be there soon, and Prince Leah left. Skull revealed to the Commandor of Cameron that he was heading to Nosferus. He further revealed that he found some data in the hidden room of Duke Vlad, and it was written in it that there was a weapon in Norris that could conquer the entire world, and that Norris was the origin of all creatures and holds a clue to unlocking the mysteries of the world. Commandor of Cameron told him that no one had ever returned to live after entering Nosferus. Skull told him a spellcaster named Cal Mora had returned before he said he had. A feeling that Norris should not hear about it. They shook hands. Skull left with his men. Norris came to Commandor of Cameron. He had already knew Skull was heading to Nosferus. Also, he knew about him going to Duke Var's hidden room, and that he took his hidden data, and he found it a bit suspicious. Commodore Cameron makes sure not to reveal Skull's purpose of going to Nosferus. Archduke Tario of Cumin summoned Lady Amnelis and Flory. He asked what Amnelis was going to Lady Amnel wished to do with herself. Lady Amnelis replied that it would rather be what would do with her, because she no longer belonged to herself. Tario said when his eldest son Taru comes back from Taurus, she would be put on trial at the request of Eulania. But since she was still young, it would be a waste for her to be executed, and she could also be useful in the reconstruction of Mongol. However, all the authority in Mongol would be entrusted to Kum, so she was going to become a puppet for Kum. Amelis said he would rather be tried and accept death on penance to the people of Peros. Tario decided he would not kill her as long as she completely performed their will. Some soldiers brought Shido to Remus while he was heading to Peros. They reported to him that they found him suspicious. Shido said he was only calling for help when the man with a strange leopard head rescued him from bandits was injured. Rinda said it must be Guin. As he had described him, he asked them to lead him to where he was. He led them into a cave, and their guards followed them. When they entered a strange room, Shido asked them to look behind, and they couldn't find the soldiers anymore. Shido said he was interested in the ancient device in Peros that only the royal family was allowed to manipulate, and that's why Akame to them. Shido began to blow his flute, and evil thoughts began to enter Renda's heart. Guin suddenly appeared and threw an arrow at Guin the twins, and Suni were quite happy to see Guin. But Shido was shocked that he was still alive. Guin asked what that place was, and Shido told him that it was a relic of the Canaan Empire more than 3,000 years ago. Canaan was a legendary empire that ruled over all middle countries Nosferus and Kai. But one day, all the bells in Canaan rang and the empire was destroyed in an instant by meteors falling from the sky. And in fact, it was Guin that was the mastermind behind the calamity. He added that Guin was the root of all the evil in the world, and he had a soul of pure evil. Rinda said Guin was not like that it was all a lie. Shido revealed that it was Guin that caused all the dangers around them, that made them found themselves in Rudwood and face so many dangers afterwards. Guin said, though he never knew anything about himself in the past, but he believed in his path, and that is the path he would continue to go. Then Shido attacked him and tore his clothes. Shido had a large mark on his chest, and when Guin saw it, he trembled. The flute in Shido's hand turned into a large sword, and he attacked Guin suddenly. Aca sprout forth from Gwyn's palm and dissolved the sword. Shido was holding Guin, slain him, and he fell. A tail came out of Shido back and wrapped around Gwyn's neck. Then he began to emit light, and there was an earthquake. Shido turned into a monster, his true form, and he threatened Guin. He was going to defeat him. He violently attacked Guin and began to hit him badly. Guin picked up his sword and he threw a dust ball at Shido. He vanished and appeared on Shido's head to stab him, but he failed. Shido commanded a strange weapon out of the ground, and Guin too wielded his sword in the strange way. The battle began again in a new dimension. Guin moved fast and stabbed Shido and threw him to the ground. He ordered the children to escape. Then there was a bright light and Guin began to hear a voice. The voice ordered him to head to the north. Guin asked if he was going to find his true identity. In destiny, a ball of light rolled up, and when it returned, it exploded and wrecked the ground. Shido rose up and wanted to attack Guin, but the flame rained on him. When the twins got out of the cave, they saw the ball of light they once saw in the island, and there was explosion. Norris wondered what was it about Nosferus that made everyone want to go there. He then decided that one day he would go there too. The ball of light kept moving into the sky until it disappeared in Thesky. The cave broke, and Guin came out of there. The children ran towards him. Even was watching them from atop the mountain. The twins returned to Peros, and the whole citizens were out to welcome them. Norris and the rest also came out to welcome them. The people hailed Norris, and Remis saw that the voices shouting for Norris are more than those shouting his name, as if Norris was the king. Remis climbed down from the horse, and Norris and the rest bowed and welcomed him as the new king. When Rinda came down, the citizens hailed her more than they hailed Remis. Guin was watching them from a hidden place, and when he turned to go, Suni begged him to wait. Guin carried her and tell her they would meet again, and then left. Rinda moved close to Norris. She told them that she wanted to introduce their spirit guardian. Guin told them, but she couldn't find him. Sona told her Guin had gone. Lady Amnelis lamented that the destruction of Mongol was caused by her, even though he was following her father's order. She blamed herself to fall in love with a man whom her country trampled his country. She said she was going to suffer the humiliation throughout her life. She stated clearly that she still loved Norris, but she was still going to defeat him, regardless. Renda couldn't believe she had returned to Peros. She said Remis was now in the king's room, and they wouldn't be together as before anymore. Suni walked up and said she would continue to be by her side. Remis sat in front of his parents' pictures and was speaking to them. He said he was going to become the king the next day, and yet Noon would call out his name. He said that was because everyone only knew him when he was still a crybaby. He said he had changed, and he was going to become a great king. Guin found Iston while he walked through the forest. Iston bowed before Guin and begged him to help him. He asked him to lend him his power so he could become a king. Guin told him he could only help him if he was directed to Bu. Yarn the great ruler because everyone has their own stars that guide them. Guin said he was leaving to know his own star, and what circumstances led him to have his present body. He said he heard a voice that asked him to go then. He told him he would lend him his power when he find out who he was. Istan said it would be late by then because everyone usually laughed at him anytime he talked about becoming a king. The day of coronation of Remus came. The Janus then proceeded in testing him if he was fit to be the king. He was asked to sit on the throne when he sat on the throne. He was announced as the rightful heir of the throne when Guin refused to lend Istan his power. He then decided to fight him. Guin advised him to take things easy as he was acting strange. He attacked Guin with his sword and he got hold of his hand. The coronation continued and Remus began taking his oath as expected. King Guin said he wasn't going to fight Istan because he was his friend and he pushed him away. Seeing that Istan wouldn't give up, Guin had a duel with him. Guin gave him a punch and he landed far away. Remus was crowned then. Peros king. Suddenly Rinda saw the spirit of Simoru appeared above Reima's head leaving. Guin moved close to Istan and Istan promised him he was going to defeat him. The next time they met, Gyn bid him farewell and still call him. His friend Guin moved away and said he only had one thing to do, and that's to find out who he was the end.